almost in a sense hijacked and held at ransom to flow in that direction. And we're saying, even when you're talking about enacting changes in agriculture and bringing in results, putting in structures that will result in economic productivity coming up, in the political environment changing, the only way that that can be addressed is if you change whoever is at the cockpit of that plane.
Another problem Zimbabwe is actually faced with is economic and the power of the currency. In fact, today, Zimbabwe no longer spends its local currency. They transact business in foreign currency. Has it become that bad that the only acceptable means of exchange in Zimbabwe is dollar, the American dollar? How did you guys come to that level that your currency has become so worthless that nobody even wants to take it any longer?
If I could answer that, Tunda.
Yeah, go on.
What's happened right now, as you've rightfully mentioned, the economy, what Tino was saying is absolutely correct. Power is in the hands of one man. What's happening in Zimbabwe is the political power is the ones that holding the force. That political power has then turned into corruption. Those who are supposed to lead the people are corrupt in themselves. So by being corrupt, even resources such as diamonds, which were found or are still there, no one knows what's happening to them because corrupt leaders and governors or generals spend it on whatever it is they want to do. They go traveling, waltzing around the world while the people are still starving. Money is there, but a few are holding it. It's being corrupted by those in power. So the economy is bound to suffer because what you have in there, the input, the raw materials that are there, which should be used for the country to benefit from, are not being put where they should go. Instead, they're being squandered by Mugabe and his generals. So there's obviously the country is going to suffer, the economy is going to go downhill, and that's just how it is now.
Let me quickly read to you a report from the United Nations World Food Programme. It says millions of Zimbabweans suffer chronic hunger and many rely on food aid, according to the UN World Food Programme, WFP. And it says about a third of children under the age of 5 are chronically malnourished.
That's right.
According to a nutrition survey carried out by the UN and the non-governmental organizations and agencies as far back as July 2010. How has this become so bad?
It's horrible when you're looking at all of that, because you then see reports where Grace Mugabe evicts 200 or so families from a Mazoe farm to place animals for wildlife, turn it into a wildlife reserve. How do you expect those people to live? They had homes, they had livelihoods in that place, but then out of nowhere, they're just uprooted. Like it doesn't matter, to make space for animal reserves. Okay, yes, we do need tourism. I agree with that. But then what happens to the people that you're taking away from there? Where you've got land that you're building your mansions, why can't you use that land for those purposes? Or at least when you take people and evict them, forcibly evict them from their houses, find them a place to go. That is not being done. So obviously all these situations are going to come into play. One has to then fall on top of the other. So one problem has caused all these things to happen.
Sally, let me still stay on you.
Yes.
Highest records of HIV/AIDS. Almost everything
is in Zimbabwe, isn't it?
In Zimbabwe.
It's true.
Except for the recently Liberia, Sierra Leone health crisis. But HIV/AIDS,
everything else, yeah.
Prevalent, one of the highest in Zimbabwe. How? Why? And let me tell you, a report earlier 2000 said that the Zimbabwe's health system was one of the best in Africa.
Yes, even nurses were still being asked to come here all the way from Zimbabwe. And you have nurses in the UK who are trained nurses from Zimbabwe who come here with their skills. Yes, nursing was skilled.
But here now a country at a point became the nation with the highest number of HIV/AIDS. What led to that?
Well,
I'm not a woman, I'm
yes.
not saying. I'm going to come back to it, you know. I mean, it's a function of both the man and the woman. But
that's correct.
What led to that very tragic statistics?
When you look at AIDS and HIV, A lot of the prevention, sometimes even if it's that, it can be, they're preventable measures. Training, educating helps. All those things, when you sponsor such things, you make people aware that this is what's going on. Teaching through schools and all those things, but you need money to do that. You need resources to have people who go out into the communities to tell people that this is what is there, be careful, protect yourselves, use condoms. There are no condoms to speak of in Zimbabwe. If you can't find money for food, where are you going to get the condoms? Maybe they've expired. If they're there, I think they've expired. Because at the end of the day...
So not going, if you're going wherever, make sure you pack it from here.
You have to be careful. You have to be careful. It's exactly what we're saying here today, that all these things are not being looked at by the government. Mugabe and his government have completely ignored the needs of the people. So now the people are suffering. It's been decades, 2 decades, where all these problems have been piling up. But the ones who are feeling it are the people. And that is why ROHR Zimbabwe is here. We come here to be the voice of the voiceless. Because you don't see these things being mentioned on TV. You don't see CNN talking about this. But we are here as a human rights group to speak out and say that there is a problem in Zimbabwe. It has not stopped. It is still ongoing. Okay,
let me tell this guy, I've got a call coming in. Oh my God, look at that video, that graphics. 500,000 Zimbabwe money almost to buy nothing. Oh my God. Okay, thank you for joining us on the program today. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello, Mr. Tunde, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
Is your friend as usual.
Okay. What's my friend's name today?
Okay. Your friend's name is Yinka.
Yinka, okay. Thank you, Yinka, for joining us on the program. Yinka, people have been asking us to invite you to the studio. They actually want to see the face.
So let me quickly say something about that. Because it was on your program on Monday. You see, I'm a cultured man.
Okay.
A patron to the call. 1 minute, Mr. Today.
Okay.
I am not here in England or calling on your show to banter words with Mr. Vincent. If Mr. Vincent is listening to me, I don't know Mr. Vincent.
He wasn't the only person that said we should bring you on air.
I can come because I'm a media man. If you invite me, I will come. You understand?
Okay.
Like Awolowo said, he says he's not the hero of his own story, but the spectator of his own tragedy.
Okay, let's go to today's story. Don't worry, we'll bring you on board and they can see the face behind the voice.
Yes.
Let's go to today's story, Ika.
The question I want to ask
Sally and Tino.
Yes, is that are we not saying it's high time we prioritize good things from Africa? Because if you are now recording the so-called ghettos, the so-called less privileged, are you telling me that in Zimbabwe there is no unique estate whereby you can pick your camera and stand in your 5-star hotel to say that this is Zimbabwe? Are you saying that for the past years that Mugabe has been ruling, there is no good thing that you can point it out as saying that this is achievement of Mugabe? Even if you are talking about Shangaraya, who happens to be the opposition man, what led to Shangaraya not to have a voice any longer? You see, African leaders were of the same feather. These are the things we are talking about. Yes, people should hear their voice, and people should rally around to help the masses. But when you are now saying this is the man that caused all the downfall of Zimbabweans, it's another question we need to ask ourselves. Are you with me?
Yes.
Every one of us has a role to play, and that is what BenTV is for. This gentleman, the CEO, try as much as possible to say that, how can I help? And that is why we are having people like today in the studio for this laudable program that you are doing to us. But let us now look inward to say that we need to start from my own end to see that our country look better. Look, this gentleman, you can see the Western world has now quit quiet. They don't talk about him. Now we need to say, why are they keeping quiet? Because before what they are saying there is to remove him. I have interviewed a lot of Zimbabweans. Some because they are two tribes, Indebele and Shona. These are the people that have said bad things about Mugabe. Let us come together and see what we need to do. If this man is now saying no to gay, is that a good thing? If this man saying that Africa we must stand on our own, we don't need foreign.
Yinka, let me ask you. Yinka, I know you're a Nigerian. what would you say of a government, under a government, let's say a government in your country, Nigeria, your naira becomes so bad that people no longer accept your currency, they have to transfer business in dollars. Would you say the people are responsible or the government? Yinka? Oh, he's gone. Is he gone? Okay. Oh, Yinka is gone. All right. Okay.
That is a very true question that you asked there.
Yeah.
I think there was another point that the gentleman there, despite some of the things that he highlighted, that really struck a chord with me. He highlighted that first and foremost, we need to give credit where it's due.
Okay, I'm sorry, Sally. Tino, I need to go on a short break now. We'll be back, but we need to go on a very short break now. The discussion is still live. I see I have Tino and Sally, human rights activists on issues around Zimbabwe, a southern African country. We'll be back to continue with the program. Don't go away. Alright, welcome back from that short break. We're talking about Zimbabwe, a country that some time ago was considered the food basket of Southern Africa, so much rich in agriculture, in food. Today has become a country that relies on food aids from other countries in the Western world. We're talking about a country in terms of its health services that was considered one of the brightest in Africa. Today had the record of having the highest number of HIV/AIDS epidemics in Africa. We're talking about a country where the people no longer spend the currency, the local currency. They have to transfer business so bad in dollar or foreign currency. We're talking about Zimbabwe. We're talking about leadership in Africa. We're talking about presidency. We're talking about the way forward. In the studio with me are Sally and Tino, two young people who are Zimbabweans, carried the cross and speaking out for Zimbabwe, and they are of the ROHR, that is Restoration Human Rights Group Zimbabwe. All right, Tino, thank you for being part of the program one more time. Tino, what is your organization doing to ensure that Zimbabwe returns to its good old days?
I think I highlighted initially that, the whole aim to bring Zimbabwe back to where it was, there has to be an entire change in the thinking mentality, the culture of doing things, the politics, the political institutions, and ultimately the political actors. So there needs to be that overhaul change. It's not going to be overnight.
How will it come?
What our organization is doing practically is, take for example, there's been the 2013 constitution that has been enacted. people don't even know, ordinary Zimbabweans on the ground don't even know what the precepts of that constitutions are. They don't know what their rights that are detailed in that constitutions are. And in some cases, they might know they have a right to assembly and demonstrate when a government is not doing something or hold ministers to account. But when they practice it, they then meet stern resistance. So we're saying, practically on the ground, we are carrying out workshops to educate people so that once they're educated, they're then empowered to know what their rights are. Also, we are carrying out charitable projects there within Zimbabwe with causes such as the vendor cause now that's currently taking place, where we're saying you've created a situation, an economic situation, an economic climate as a result of political tension and a political crisis where everyone is forced to vend for a living. And you then later want to then tell everyone to remove all the stuff that they're vending from the streets, and they don't have any other form of economic livelihood. So we're saying we are representing these people and standing with them in support. But we can't do all of this by ourselves. That's why we're here on this program today, and that's why we have to appeal to the people at home to say, in any means, in any form that they can assist us, to build up funds and build up finances towards that, to build up these institutions and these structures, as you're pointing out, a proper judiciary that can hold the government to account. We need a human rights institute in Zimbabwe. We need a human rights institute in Africa that can empower people and educate them on what these human rights are. And we need massive levels of education on issues such as permaculture, as you're saying, different farming mechanisms that will then, in a practical sense, take care of that burden of, the food. Once that burden of the food is taken care of, they can then now focus on all these other higher priorities.
Okay, all right, Sally, I'm going to come to you, but let me just quickly take this call. Thank you for being part of the program today. Your name and where you're calling from.
Mr. Today is Inka again.
Yes, thank you for calling back.
I lost the call.
Yes, I was asking you before you left,
yes,
that who would you hold accountable? You're from Nigeria. Should in your country, Nigeria, if it becomes so bad, foreign currency dollar, will you hold the people accountable, hold the government accountable? Especially when you know that the government has not been changed for like 10 years plus. 30 years.
You say
30 years.
Are you with me?
I'm with you.
To be open, you will hold the government in power account, but you cannot hold them account for such a menace that is lingering in a country like Zimbabwe. I want to tell your guest there that it's all over African countries. And who caused this problem? When you go for bureau de change and some other things, that you look at your money and your money doesn't have value. It is the making of the Western world not to make any country currency powerful as theirs.
Yinka, can I come to you again? If we were to be talking about Nigeria now, you're gonna bash the last government of Nigeria, President Jonathan's government, so hard that it killed Nigeria's economy. It's so corrupt, and now you're saying that we cannot hold government responsible sometimes for what they do. Okay. We should hold the Western world.
If you want to toe that line, if the people in government steal the money, or they have stolen the money.
But that is what Tino and Sally are saying, that the money in Zimbabwe, so much corruption.
What I'm telling you. Look, let me tell you, Yoruba adage says,
they don't understand.
In English.
Yeah.
The thief who carries the items from the owner, you don't need to blame the thief. You need to blame whoever that the thief gave these items to. Who do these people in the government?
So Yinka, so whatever that has happened to Nigeria, we shouldn't knock down Jonathan then by your position.
No. When we are looking at the percentage,
let's balance this very well.
Africa, please 1 minute. Africans are 60% of the blame. Whereas the Western world has the 40%. Where is Buhari now looking outside to say that where are the money? This is the point we're making. But Africa, now let us go back to the way Mugabe or people will ask Mugabe to move forward.
Yeah.
Please, like these people in your studio,
yes,
they're doing a very great job. Because I've seen a lot of Zimbabweans here going back home, you'll be buying bread, common bread. They are put it in their luggage to give to their family back home. As bad as that. But let me tell you the fact that the first thing that I realized that Mugabe did was that collecting some of this land that belongs to the people of Mugabe, to Zimbabwe, and sell it at a cheaper price to the individual to become a farmer. And that is the beginning of wisdom. If you can have enough, like their name, they are the bread soul winner, or what do you call them, of Africa. And if they can go back to Genesis, or go back to their basis and start from there, you will know that Zimbabwe will change. And those of us in the diaspora as well, what I'm saying is that enough is enough for us taking or looking at the bad angle of this issue. We need to rally around and help. And this is the time we need to help. And we come up with a very clean slate to put our African nation in the map and the area that want it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you. All right. Okay. Yinka, you've been taking out. I fully agree with you, Yinka, that's the situation. Yes, God, you know.
Ideally, I would like to ask Yinka this. With leadership comes responsibility.
Absolutely, sure.
You have the casing point of African leadership in the sense of Nelson Mandela, where he had 27 years in prison, which was far much longer than Robert Mugabe stayed in prison. Robert Mugabe only stayed 10 years in prison, 11 years in prison. And yet he only governed for 5 years and passed on the baton to someone else with fresh new ideas. What we're then asking is, if they can't find the collective solutions, as he's saying, we bear the 60% responsibility, why not pass the burden to someone else?
A fresh mind, a fresh hand.
That is correct.
And it's not only just that. The results then also show. If you look at the South African economy, how it's been performing, and even the development of democracy as one of the youngest democracies in Africa, and the situation where we have, try and imagine the CEO of Sony or any other big company existing in that position for 30 years. It will be unheard of.
Times will change.
You have a situation in Zimbabwe where someone is deliberately in power and they can see things are going pear-shaped and downward, and they don't have any solution. And in a sense, they're spoiling the initial good record that they actually had.
In the beginning, yeah.
And there's nothing progressive that they're offering. So he needs then to take account to say, how then do we then move forward? How then do we offer something fresh and something new so that Africa can move forward, so that Zimbabwe can move forward? That's my question to him. And why not do it in 5 years, in 10 years, while still things are good?
While still in power, even 30 years after. Yes. Okay, Sally, let me ask you, so how do we go from here? What other organizations are you working with to ensure that there is the change, not a change of person, but a change of institutions and structures, the way Tina has put it?
Yes, the other organizations that we've got a sister organization in the Zimbabwe Vigil, which meets every Saturday outside the London Zimbabwe Embassy in London. And they meet from 2 to 6 p.m. It was formed in 2002. Every Saturday since then they meet. So it's a sister organization. It was from that ROHR also was formed in 2007 by obviously human rights, victims of human rights abuse, which like our founder, for instance, Ephraim Tapa. So we work hand in hand with them. And even this Saturday we'll be meeting there for the Itai Zamara. We want him back. I mean, he's been abducted. He's a father. He's a husband. He's missing 4 months. These are things that people are not being told about. It's not in the news or anything like that. So that's where we come in to make people aware of that.